Hi and welcome along to this week's episode of CannaChat, where we casually chat about all things cannabis related. We appreciate you tuning in.
All views expressed in this podcast are the opinions of the host and in no way medical advice. Welcome to episode 6 of CannaChat. Tim and I were just discussing there how strange it is for me to have actually been medicating legally now, after 20 years of hiding in the shadows and feeling like I was a criminal for medicating with natural medicine for all these years for anxiety and depression. Now to actually be able to do it legally and carry my medicine with me is still a bit strange to me, to be honest. I suppose it just becomes natural with the stigma being attached to it for so many years. The stigma is obviously still there in the back of my head to a degree. It brings it into relation to about all the people that have been punished unfairly all these years for using cannabis as a medicine. All the people that have been put in jail and had criminal records for, well, no apparent reason now, we see, because they were medicating with something natural and criminalised for it. Sort of puts things into perspective of how unfair that is and how unjust that is. And if things do get legalised and fully medicinally and recreationally, what happens to all these people that have been jailed unfairly or had criminal records unfairly?
I suppose even if people have lost jobs or have records, maybe just removing the records from their criminal
something
history.
Simple as that, where it is it's just, I think recognition is what I'm looking for. Just recognition for people that haven't been doing something that, yes, it was illegal at the time, but it doesn't mean it's wrong. Just because it's illegal doesn't mean it's wrong. I mean, that's proven now with cannabis. As I say, cannabis has been legalised medicinally and recreationally in so many countries now. It proves that it was unjust for it to be made illegal for so many years, and it was stigmatised for so many years, especially with so many using it now beneficially. And just on the medical side of things, while I'm there, we have had a few questions sent in by a few people. First one is, how long does the process take from a plan to actually getting your medical cannabis? The process for me took around 2 weeks. Things are starting to move a wee bit slower at the minute because there's been a lot more people applying from what I've heard. It's certainly through Zerenia clinics anyway. I was speaking to them through the week and they says that the intake is certainly ramped up slightly. So at the minute it's maybe taking 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks from you lift the phone until you actually have your medical cannabis in hand. First part of the process is lift the phone or send an email to the clinic, register. They'll send you an email back. You fill in the forms, the relevant forms to release your doctor's notes, explain a wee bit about your condition, your ailments. Within 3 to 4 days, you'll receive word back from them to say that you've got a consultation coming up. You'll then pay for your consultation. You'll get your consultation within, I would say, around 5 to 7 days. After your consultation, your doctor, your GP, their private doctor there will decide whether you're entitled or whether he thinks it's going to benefit you, medicinal cannabis. If he thinks it'll benefit you, he'll prescribe it there and then. After that, it goes through a board. After that, the board usually sit once a week. So the board sit and the board review his decision. If they agree with his decision, then it goes ahead and the pharmacy will then be in touch with you within a few days. Pharmacy contacts you, you pay for your prescription. The pharmacy releases your prescription that day, and within 2 days it's in the post, brought by a courier to your door. That's how simple a process it is, which to me is really a leap forward in comparison to people not knowing how or where to go about this so many months ago.
Would that be the kind of thing like a normal prescription for other medication where you can order a repeat prescription?
It's exactly what it's like. What you do is, after you've got your first prescription, you see your private doctor 4 weeks again, another Zoom call. He reviews your medicine, how you've been getting on with it. You just be open and honest and say, yes, it's been good, or I've had slight side effects of being too tired at night, or whatever the case may be, or if you're using it during the day, it's causing a bit of tiredness. Just be open and honest and tell him how you're feeling with the medication, how much it's helping your pain, how much it's helping your anxiety, whatever the condition is you're using it for. From that, he can then elaborate whether you've got the right strain or whether you should be prescribed a different strain that's more beneficial to you. If you have had side effects from that strain that just don't agree with you, i.e. a bit of tiredness or whatever the case may be, he'll prescribe you another strain to try. Or certainly if that strain is the one that's working for you and you're feeling totally on point with that strain, then certainly he'll re-prescribe that strain for you that month. But I think it's generally every 3 to 4 weeks for the first few months. You see the private GP on a Zoom call and just to review your meds and how you are getting on. But yeah, if your meds are working, it's just a case of contact them and get a repeat prescription after that once you find the strain that's working for you. But as I say, there's so many thousands of strains out there. Sometimes it might take a wee bit of altering just to get the right one for you. A bit of trial and error just to see what works for you best for your own endocannabinoid system and your own balance.
I suppose like like every medicine, really.
It's exactly it. I mean,
Bit of trial and error.
yeah, some things just don't work for everybody exactly the same, and it's the same with cannabis strains. Say some are high THC levels, some are high CBD levels, and some are in between. But again, it's not just down to that, it's down to the flavonoids and the terpenes and everything else that creates the entourage effect in the cannabis plant. Again, on to another question we got asked that's just brought into my head there. I've a few people asking this week the difference between flavonoids and terpenes. It's a bit of a complicated question because they're so similar. Flavonoids is one of the most understated compounds in cannabis. Its research is still very low on it. There hasn't been a lot of research done on flavonoids, but they're certainly seeing a lot of benefits from flavonoids. As I say, they're very close to terpenes in their nature. They both help the plant decipher its smell and its taste. They both have unique input into that. The difference between flavonoids and terpenes that I can really find as concrete is that the flavonoids will decipher the colour of a plant, where the terpenes have no input in that whatsoever. It's down to the flavonoids to decide. Some people don't realise some cannabis plants have purple tones, some cannabis plants are pure green, some have orange tones, some have slight red tones, some have even deep black tones going through them, and there's even albino cannabis plants. So all this is down to the flavonoids that decide the colour of it. There's thousands of flavonoids throughout nature, but there's around 20 flavonoids in the cannabis plant itself, which are, as a group, are called cannaflavins. These have different benefits similar to terpenes, anti-inflammatory, antibacterial, analgesic, all different benefits again from a lot of these flavonoids. The flavonoids will give you benefit on their own, the terpenes will give you benefit on their own, and the two combined will again give you extra benefits. Again, add that to cannabinoids and you're getting extra benefits again. We're going back to where we talked in a few podcasts before about the entourage effect. The more you bring into the mix, cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids, the more of the full plant you bring into the mix, the more benefit you're getting. And again, that's why so many people focus on the full plant, because that's where you're getting maximum benefit. Again, that leads me to another point that I want to touch on, Tim, is a lot of people are still shopping for THC percentage when they're buying a plant. So if they're looking for a cannabis strain, they're looking highest THC, thinking that's the best strain. So if someone goes to Amsterdam, especially recreationally more so, medicinally, certainly a lot of people I'm seeing are having that issue. If they're thinking, well, I've got serious pain, so I need the strongest THC. It's not a case of that. It's a big misconception. THC percentage is overrated. Sometimes it's maybe down to ego with the recreational side of things. Some people, I'm smoking 28% THC instead of 15. I don't know whether that's maybe part of the reason why people do it in recreational side of things, but I think it's accidental in the medicinal side of things, where people are thinking they need a high THC content to handle their condition because they think their condition's extreme. Should it be extreme pain or whatever the case may be they're treating. Again, high THC won't just target that. It's down to the balance of the flavonoids, the cannabinoids, the terpenes, creating the entourage effect. And I say everybody's endocannabinoid system's different, and it's finding the right strain for your endocannabinoid system with the right flavonoids and terpenes and THC and CBD level. As I say, I like a nice 1-to-1 balance, which would be maybe 15% THC, 15% CBD. It could be 10% of each, but that 1-to-1 balance seems to be what works really well for me for anxiety and depression. It works for a lot of people, anxiety and depression too. Too high THC strain will send my anxiety off the charts. Too high CBD strain won't send it off the charts, but it won't help my pain the same or my depression the same. So again, it's finding the right strains that work for you. Back to flavonoids again. They protect their body from creating toxins. They're highly antioxidant. They're antibacterial. Some of them are antiviral. There's actually one flavonoid that is in tea as well as cannabis, and it's one of the most beneficial flavonoids out of them all. It's called orientin. It's antibiotic, anti-inflammatory, neuroprotective, and it's antibiotic. So it's one of the most beneficial of all the flavonoids, and I say it's in tea and in cannabis. So it proves the benefits of some of the flavonoids on their own without adding them, again, the terpenes, and adding them the cannabinoids to increase the benefit of everything, again, as a team working together, as we've talked about a few times in the podcast. Again, another question we're asked was about the quality of meds that's been prescribed. All I can do is give you my personal opinion on that. The quality of the meds, it's a fair quality. It's of commercial quality, as you would expect. But yes, it is good quality. It works the very best. It has good terpene profile. There's no doubt about that. It's not, certainly not what some people would call dead weed that's been left in jars for long. What I would say is it's maybe a wee bit over dry. There's solutions for that. Again, if you buy your cannabis and it's over dry, there's certain things you can introduce to it to reintroduce the moisture naturally. There's what's called Boveda sachets. You add them into your jar and they will reintroduce the moisture and hold the moisture of your cannabis to 62% of where it's optimum. You will actually smell the terpenes sort of to a degree come back to life once you've done that if your cannabis is too dry. There's also, so as I don't discriminate against products because I'm not here to promote anything, there's also what's called Grove bags. Grove bags are a very similar idea. They're just a bag that will do the same. They claim to retain the moisture between 58 to 62% as well, and they have what's called terp lock, which will retain the terpenes into the bag. It's a very similar idea to Boveda sachet. The Boveda sachet is basically pure water with salt inside it, and over time it'll crystallize, and once crystallized it's done. But they're both two-way humidity, so they both will. If your cannabis is too wet, they'll take the moisture out of it as well. It's advanced technology. I can't comprehend how the bags actually work, but I can vouch that both products do work very, very well. And as I say, the reason you would do that if your cannabis is too dry is because if your cannabis is too dry and you're vaping, it's going to be very harsh in your throat. That's one of the benefits. Plus, again, as I say, the terpene profile won't be as lively if the cannabis is over dry, so you won't enjoy the plant the same too. At the end of the day, if you've got medicine, you may as well try and enjoy it. We're lucky that cannabis has enjoyable side effects rather than a lot of the side effects from a lot of the medicines. So it's nice to be able to make the most out of your cannabis, and that's the only reason I've explained the moisture content in the cannabis like that.
So what was the two reasons? You have the flavour essentially, and what was the other one?
The harshness.
The harshness.
If you vaporize or combust a dry plant, it'll be a lot more harsh in your throat and your chest. Pardon me. Where if your moisture levels are on point, it'll be a lot smoother. And again, if anybody's vaping, you want to make it as smooth as possible. Medicinally, it's recommended not to combust them. That's what the pharmacies and stuff are recommending, not to combust. So they're recommending to vape. Vape wise, you would use basically one of two main devices in the industry that are recognized for high quality vaping. One's called a PAX. PAX is a small device that fits in your pocket or your handbag or whatever the case may be. Mighty would be the other one. They're both small devices that will fit in your pocket or your handbag that will vaporize the cannabis, so as it's not combusted. It's a safer way to consume. Very, very similar to smoking, but it's done at different temperatures. You get the maximum terpene profile and the maximum flavour out of vaporizing too, which is also a bonus of vaporizing. But I say the main reason you would do that is to kill the harshness and to give you maximum benefit of your flavour if the moisture control is perfect in your cannabis.
And what happens if it's the other way, like too damp?
If it's too wet, it's the same. It'll be harsh in your throat and your chest as well, but it's not good for you because you're getting moisture. You're inhaling the moisture and you don't want to inhale too much moisture, so you want a good balance to where the plant is dried, right? It's like when a plant is harvested, it has to be hung for 7 to 10 days first. That's the drying process. After the drying process and the stalks are snapping, then it goes into jars for another 7 days to 2 weeks. That's what's called a curing process. The curing process is just basically what's creating the optimum flavour profile for your plant. So if you're curing it in jars, you would pop the jars maybe twice a day for the first 2 weeks to let it breathe for a minute. Close the jars again, and that'll retain the terpene profile in the plant. That's the best way to harvest and cure plants. People that don't do that right, they just pull a plant down and they dry it in a box and then expect to smoke it. It will work, it will give benefits, but it won't give full benefit. It's like anything. If you do, it's like commercially grown weed, and comparing commercially grown cannabis with small batch cannabis. Small batch cannabis is basically someone doing it on a small scale. It's like anything small batch. So someone doing it as a hobby in their garden or in their garage or whatever the case may be. They're growing cannabis, but they're putting that personal attention in that cannabis every day. They're showing that plant love and care and attention, and that's affecting the end product. There's no doubt. It's the same as a chef creating a top dish. If he's creating that with passion and with love of what he's doing, that top dish is going to taste so much better than someone just throwing it together in a McDonald's. And it's the same with small batch growing cannabis versus commercial scale. Small batch is always going to stand above it because it's had that personal care, and that personal care comes through in the end product. Then that leads on to what's called single source. As I said before, there's extracts and so on come from cannabis now. After the farm process, people can extract different extracts for high concentration. That leads down to single source, where some people do that right from the start of the process. So there's some farmers out there will grow the cannabis and then they'll cure the cannabis and then they'll create single source extracted cannabis like resins and so on, the highly concentrated forms. That's all single source. That's been done straight from seed through to the oil from one person. Again, the quality shines through with all these people because they have the passion. It's like what I spoke about before with different brands like Jungle Boys and stuff who have been in the game from day one. They have the passion behind the brand, and that's why their product is so much better. I firmly believe that it is down to the love for the plant and what they do, rather than someone just jumping in the industry for the money of it. To grow cannabis on a commercial scale, they'll never create the same quality of product as someone doing it with a passion for it. Again, I'll go back to cooking and things like that. That's the best way to relate it to someone that doesn't understand, but someone can understand when you talk about cooking and about it. That's why people go to top chefs, because their food is so much better. Their food's better because they've got the passion behind what they're doing, as well as using top quality product. It's the same in the cannabis industry. These growers are using top quality nutrients and making sure they're well flushed out, and they're doing it all with love and care, and that's why they get so much good top quality product as the end product in comparison to, as I say, commercial cannabis.
You're making me think about food there when you were talking to. It made me think of a show I watched recently about steaks.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about sort of single source and essentially dry aging the product,
mm-hmm.
and drying it to a certain, humidity and
Doing
so
it right.
forth. But yeah, it makes sense. Just the more, as you say, love you put into it,
It's exactly what it is.
It tastes better, and that's why you can command a premium for the best
premium
food,
product.
right?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, and it's no different to any other industry that way. Anything you pour love into will show in an end product. There's no doubt about that. I'm a firm believer that's why certain products work better than others. It's just simply because of the passion someone has put into it in the making process and the whole R&D process of it. I'll just touch base on another question I got asked. It's about animals, dogs and cats. Someone sent in a question asking, do they have an endocannabinoid system, and do they use cannabis the same way everybody else does? Well, clearly they're not going to rule a joint. I'm sure they don't mean in that way. I'm sure the way they mean is, does it affect them the same way? Does it affect them at all? Does it not affect them? Yes, dogs and cats and most other animals and mammals have an endocannabinoid system as well, just the same as humans. So yes, it should be treated the same way humans should be treated. They should have cannabinoids in their diet the same way we should. As I say, cannabis was in our diet years ago when the cattle was fed through hemp, and then it came through and filtered through to us and so on. We're juicing it and blending it and putting it in food years ago too when it wasn't illegal. This has all changed. As I say, our endocannabinoid system is truly starved now. Dogs and cats are no different. Dogs and cats get health issues the same way we do. I'm a firm believer that the health issues they get, again, stem from endocannabinoid deficiency. Like I said in the last episode, endocannabinoid deficiency is medically recognised now. So if it's medically recognised in humans, what makes animals so different? Nothing. They're starved of it the same way we are now since the law changed in the 1900s. The only thing I would say about dogs and cats is, especially dogs, is that they're hypersensitive to THC. Other cannabinoids seem to be fine, but THC, dogs and cats seem to be hypersensitive to. So you have to be careful if you're administering THC. You would only do it in minimal amounts, but the only reason you would really want to administer THC to your cats and dogs is if you're treating cancer or anything sort of serious like that. Bar that, CBD and CBG and other main cannabinoids should give them a good quality of life and a good balance throughout their life. To me, I mean, I've dogs of my own, and they get cannabinoids every day the same way they get their U-Move. It's no different. 2 vitamins, I feel I'm giving them the benefit of them, giving them a better long quality of life. So if anybody's asking, should they be giving their dogs and cats CBD? Yes. Do it in small minimal amounts and do it by body weight of the dog. So if you have a small dog, real minimal amounts. Obviously a bigger dog, you're going to need a wee bit more, but not just as much as humans.
Have you ever seen a resource online or anywhere that sort of gives you a way to calculate body weight?
You can calculate the body weight, but again, to me it's not accurate 100% because it's down to everybody being different again. It's like your endocannabinoid system is going to be slightly different, and sometimes you can't just, in my eyes, pinpoint it on a weight. It's the same with people. I mean, there's references for people for body weight as well for CBD, but again, it's like alcohol and other prescription drugs. Someone may be more susceptible to one drug or than another person, and that's cannabis is exactly the same and no different. And that's why I find it hard to just strictly target based on the weight of an animal or a person. I think you should start in around the recommended dose, maybe a bit lower, and build yourself up and watch for the results yourself. As you'll see a lift in mood with anybody or any animals that are taking CBD and they've got their target and their tolerance on point. Once you get their tolerance on point, you'll feel a difference in yourself. The dog's the same. You'll see a difference in the dog. You'll see a spring in its step. You'll see it looking happier. I mean, we can sense how our dogs are feeling through the look and through the wag of the tail and everything else, all the other signs. You know when your dog's happy and when you're not, especially when it's living with you 24/7. So you can sense if your dog's in a better form. And when you see it on that better form and in that better tune, then that's where to keep that. That's a dog's balance. Once you've found that, then don't go past it, because as I say, if you go past your sweet spot with CBD or any other cannabinoids, you can set your endocannabinoid system out of balance, just the same way it's out of balance before it has cannabinoids. It just goes the opposite direction. So like I say, we're back to balance again. Every time in the episode, we're always back to balance, but it is what it is. That's what it all boils down to: responsible use and balance. And I think we can all have a high quality of life using cannabis if we keep that in play.
And would you recommend, similarly to you mentioned with humans, that with animals you would give them a break every so often?
No doubt. It's the same with everybody and everything. I recommend everybody takes a break 4 to 6 weeks from consuming your CBD, full plant cannabis, whatever you're consuming. Take a break every 4 to 6 weeks for 1 to 2 days. You'll feel your ailments increase again. Proves to you it's working as well. But when you feel your ailments increase, you take a break for 1 to 2 days. Then you go back on your medicine. The only reason you're doing that is to keep your tolerance at the right level. I say if you're consuming 10 milligram a day, after 2 months you're going to be consuming 15 to get that same relief. Then you're going to be consuming 20 milligram a day in 2 months. Then you're going to consume 25 and so on. This will just keep increasing. Wherever if you take a break every 4 to 6 weeks and do the same for your animals, it keeps the sweet spot tolerance exactly the same for you. So you'll be able to stay on 10 milligram a day long term. There's no reason you won't be unless any ailments increase on you. You should be able to stay at your own specific sweet spot. It's just finding that sweet spot for each one of us is the hardest bit. Pardon me. And that's why I say to everybody, start small and build up. Just take 3 to 5 days to let your endocannabinoid system awaken. Build yourself up slowly but surely until you feel the benefits. Once you feel the benefits, stick at that dose. That's your dose. I say after that, give it a break every 4 to 6 weeks for 1 to 2 days, and then go back onto that dose again, and that should keep you well balanced and regulated. That should certainly help create homeostasis in your body. So that's all the questions and stuff covered for this week, and all the topics I wanted to touch base on. Just for next week, if anybody wants to ask any questions at all, no matter how silly they may sound, feel free to send them in to the Instagram, to the TikTok. If we stay on, we get banned from TikTok every other week, so we're having trouble there at the minute. But Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, feel free to contact us and send in any questions you want to send us, and we'll certainly answer them as best we can. Failing that, if you liked and enjoyed this, give us a wee like and subscribe on YouTube and follow on Spotify, and we'll catch you again in a few weeks.
Watch the full video podcast on YouTube at Kaput Network.
We'd like to thank you for joining us for this week's episode. We'll catch you again soon for some more CannaChat. And remember, the real crime is knowing cannabis can help others, but doing nothing about it.